You know, not everybody is complying with orders Gavin Newsom, Steve Sisolak, and many governors throughout the country. And a perfect example of that is a barbershop in California. It's called Primo's, and the owner of that barbershop has made the rounds, Fox News and other networks, and he has not shut down and turned back hours in his barbershop. His name is Juan Desmarais, and Juan joins us right now on the line. Juan, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that. All right, so let me start with the very basic of questions. Why have you decided to go against what the governor of California has asked you to do?
Well, to be honest with you, it feels un-American. It feels unconstitutional. You know, as a Marine, I was a law enforcement officer for a long time, and sometimes knowing your rights and standing up for those are more important than I don't know, like these bogus rules that they're making.
So let me ask you this. You said your rights, and I guess I would normally agree with you if it was just your health on the line. But I guess this is where we might disagree. As you know, the coronavirus can easily spread to others. So what would happen if somebody goes into your barbershop, they're asymptomatic, they give it to you, you go home, you give it to somebody else? Is it just about your rights, or isn't it about everybody else's rights as well?
Well, listen, we've as a nation, we've dealt with way more serious illnesses than coronavirus, like H1N1, for example. We didn't stop people from going to barbershops. We didn't live in fear. I wasn't afraid of my kids who are extremely healthy getting sick, just like I'm not afraid of that now. If they get sick, if I get sick, if my clients get sick, eventually all of us are going to have to get sick. None of these masks, none of these rules, none of these shutdowns, none of this economy being shut down is going to stop the virus from spreading. And on some level, I mean, everyone's talking about this herd immunity that we need to get, and I'm in agreement with that. You know, like, we're a nation that shouldn't have to live in fear. We've never had before, and I just don't want to start now.
All right, so I want to ask you about what you just said about scientific I want to talk about scientific evidence that proves that masks do help as far as not spreading the virus. Why would you?
Well, I mean, you're talking about scientific evidence that has been debunked by other scientists and other doctors.
So why do people wear masks in hospitals?
They're having surgery. That's like when I was a CHP officer. When I stopped someone and I helped them on the road, I wasn't wearing gloves all day, but when I was helping them, I put on gloves because I didn't want to get their germs on me. I mean, but you're talking about a scene where there's a necessity for it, and you're talking about everyday American living. There's no necessity for wearing masks. There's no necessity for wearing gloves. I mean, if we all want to really, truly be cautious, then we should all be issued N95 masks. We should all be going through, like, you know, all kinds of toxic training. I mean, and that's just not realistic. It's not realistic. The only thing that's going on right now is there's a power grab. There's a money grab, and the people who are getting broke are businesses like mine that are small businesses, and corporate businesses are doing good.
I sympathize with you.
They found a miracle cure, or a miracle in Costco and Walmart and Home Depot that allows no one to get sick, but somehow in my shops, America's going to get sick. Give me a break.
Well, nobody's ever said that you can't get sick in Costco or Home Depot. Where has anyone ever said that? Masks are not 100%. I don't think any prominent politician has said if you go into Costco, you cannot get sick. Where are you getting that from?
Well, I mean, the Costco's and the Walmarts and all of them have been open since day one.
Yeah, but nobody said they can't get sick.
Now twice now.
Well, but with all listen, I sympathize with you. But with that being said, there is a difference between someone going.
Well, how can you sympathize with me when you're getting a full paycheck? How can you sympathize with that?
First of all,
how can you sympathize when you're not told
so
to
just
shut down
because
your radio station?
All right. So first of all, I wasn't even allowed in the radio station for 3.5 months. You're unaware of that. So that's number one. Number two, you don't know what my paycheck is. And number three, there is a fine line between somebody getting their hair cut and somebody that needs to go to a supermarket to get food. Would you at least agree with that? Cutting your hair is not a 100% necessity to live.
Well, I mean, there's people who have grooming standards throughout our area. We live in a base or a town that has a big military base. We have 2 prisons. Every cop in freaking Northern California lives in Vacaville. So they are essential workers, and they have essential standards and grooming standards that they have to uphold.
Okay, grooming standards are okay, and I totally get that. But I will ask again, are you really comparing cutting somebody's hair as a necessity to somebody eating food?
Oh, well, I don't know. Like, hey, listen, I can't eat food. My children can't eat food unless we're cutting hair.
Okay,
So
but
what makes that more essential than?
Okay, so first
I don't
of
know
all,
what to tell you, that's the most essential thing to me. I don't get PPE. I don't get unemployment. I don't get that because we don't pay into that.
okay,
So
but
how can you sit there? How can any American sit there and tell me that all my hard work, all my investments are not essential for myself and my kids? And what about my other barbers who are young family?
well, my understanding,
they have to feed.
you're in California, and in the state of California, if you do lose your job or you're unable to work, you are able to collect unemployment, are you not?
You know how much the unemployment is for self-employed people?
And you're also allowed to collect
$167.
Sure, and you're
What am I
also
supposed to do with $167 every 2 weeks?
well, if that's what it is every 2 weeks, you're also allowed to go on food stamps, are you not? If you can't afford food.
Okay, so you're talking about $400 worth of food stamps. So now you have $167 plus $400 worth of food stamps. Who's going to pay my rent? Who's going to buy my groceries? Who's going to buy freaking my PG&E, my water, my electricity? Who's going to put?
And that's assuming that you actually are able to get food stamps and unemployment.
Right.
You're
talking about a 3-month
quickly.
process.
When there's this many people going for it, then it's going to take longer for them to process you as well.
So if that happened to you and you had to shut down, you're saying you wouldn't be able to afford to put food on your family in a week?
They did try to shut me down, but I'm not going to shut down. And guess what? No one's done nothing, and they're going to continue to do nothing. You know why? Because I'm bold, and leadership in America nowadays doesn't know how to deal with bold people, and that's why I stayed open the first time with no consequences. That's why this time I'm staying open with no consequences, because it's a sham. Because if
it's a sham, 140,000 people have died.
If there was really some sort of pandemic,
what do you mean it's a sham, sir? With all due respect, 140,000 people have died. Would you tell their families they're 6 feet underneath the ground? Would you look at those families?
How many people die here from drunk driving?
That has absolutely drunk driving.
How many die from
drunk driving is against the law, and comparing car accidents to a pandemic is ridiculous, sir.
What about
Why are you? I just asked you.
Flu?
Listen. You're the one who just said this virus is a sham, and I'm asking you a very serious question.
Sham.
Okay, would you go up to?
I'm telling you.
Why did these people die then? If it's a sham, if the coronavirus is a sham, then how did they die?
How come we keep on getting told on a daily basis that the numbers are being fixed? That
you keep avoiding the question. So you don't think any of these people that have died have had the coronavirus? So you think this whole thing is a sham?
I'm saying the pandemic is a scam. I don't think coronavirus.
How is the pandemic a scam? With all due respect,
because it's not a pandemic.
No, sorry.
You don't quarantine healthy people. That doesn't make any sense.
You quarantine people so they don't get sick. So
you quarantine unhealthy people.
That's not the only reason.
Keep them away from. Yes, it is. You're talking about tyranny now.
I am flabbergasted. You're telling me, and I just want to.
So, sir.
Well, it's easy to see that you're flabbergasted. I mean, it's easy to see that you're a left wing.
I'm not a left wing. Nice try.
Yes, you are.
No. Okay.
You are.
Okay, Juan. Okay, Juan. Okay. So, Juan, I'm trying to. Excuse me, Juan. Excuse me, Juan. I have never voted for a Democrat in my life. So once again, you're factually inaccurate. And I'm not surprised you don't care about my opinion, because you don't care about the health and safety of the customers.
Exactly right.
You don't care about the health and safety of the customers that are walking into your barbershop, and you're selfish. You're a selfish fool.
I didn't drag anyone into my barbershop, and you know what?
Yeah, but you kept it open. You kept it open though, and you called this virus a sham.
Because Brian, he has to be able to eat.
Yeah, because I'm sure he's very poor and he can't put food on the table. And then after you call this virus a sham, then after you call this virus a sham, you call me a liberal.
Well, you need a hug for sure, no doubt about it.
No, I don't want a hug from you, because I don't want a hug from somebody who's ignorant. I think you're ignorant.
It's that simple.
You know what? You know what? You play politics with people. People like you. You call this thing a sham. You listen to the right wing propaganda.
Brian,
I'm sick of it.
Why don't you have any empathy for Juan's situation? Because Juan, honestly. 99%.
I didn't ask you to come. I didn't ask you to call my shop and come on my area.
No, I wanted to call you up, and I wanted to talk to you and expose you for being an ignorant person, and I did that, and I accomplished that.
Are you done?
And I disagree with that.
Let me tell you something. Ignorant people. No, I'm not done. Ignorant people like you are a disgrace to this country.
Day,
good.
Guys.
Yeah. Goodbye, you fool.
Yeah, thanks for the.
The second he decided to call me a liberal and attack me because I disagree with him, he was going to lose that. Let me tell you something. I hope nobody goes to his stupid barbershop.
I don't think it's because that you disagreed with him. I think it's because the things that you say
he
to
called
him,
the virus a sham.
The things that you say to him make him think that you're liberal. And the virus isn't a sham.
He called the virus. That's what he said.
He said it wrong.
He said, yeah, he did.
Yeah, people are obviously dying of the virus. Now, this virus is not the Spanish flu. This virus does not mean that the entire economy needs to shut down. Because, Brian, there are millions of businesses just like Juan's all over the country. And if he's making $167 a week through unemployment when someone like our friend of the show, who right now is making $600 more a week because he works for somebody else and doesn't have his own business, that to a business owner, that is unfair. And if you don't know how long it's going to take to get unemployment or food stamps.
Let me tell you
and
what
so
I think is
factoring all
unfair.
those things in, yeah, I realize people are 6 feet underneath the ground, people are dying. But if you have a small business and you've spent X amount of years building that business and suddenly that business is gone because of something that you can't control, that's an issue. And that is infuriating a lot of people across the country right now, including this guy, obviously. Right. You heard himself. He has his own kids. $167 a week.
He's not special. There's a lot of people that are struggling right now. That's not an excuse.
What do you mean that's not?
Let me explain.
You're not factoring in his troubles. All you're thinking about is those people who could possibly get sick.
So here's my response to that.
Not the people who are suddenly out of their entire their entire livelihood just goes up in flames. You're not thinking about that. You're only thinking about one side of this. That's why I say it's a selfish approach, not to factor in the economical damage like this guy.
Not a selfish approach.
Despite the fact that you guys don't agree, that's fine. But this guy is a prime example of what is happening in America right now.
I agree.
If you had a small business, you didn't work for a corporation that had a lot of money, you are SOL like me. I'm making nothing for unemployment right now. I own a couple of small businesses. I'm not getting anything for that. If I didn't have the show, I wouldn't be getting paid anything at all. But if I worked for, say, the Palazzo or a restaurant, maybe the Cheesecake Factory, something like that, I would be making literally almost twice as much money as I was before. And that's not working. That's not working compared to working, as well as I'm not subjecting myself to that risk. That's a big deal. And when you're a small business owner, you have to think about those things. And that's why I bring them up all the time. That conversation we just had, you heard how angry he was? That's an example of how the economy is being destroyed. And if his business goes under, and there's millions of people like him across the country, these people are going to have to depend on the federal government to survive. So then you've got people that are already dependent on the government, plus a new batch of people. Their standard of life will go down significantly because the money's not going to be there to make sure everyone can get paid the necessary amount of money. And so all these things have to be factored in, along with people dying. I understand people are dying. I get that. But you have to bring in both sides of the equation.
Okay, my turn now.
Absolutely.
First of all, the guy we just had on the line, his name is Juan. He owns a barbershop called Primo's, which I hope nobody ever goes to. Juan has decided to defy the orders of the governor while everyone else is abiding by them. He's not special. That's number one. Number two, when I pulled back and I asked him why he would call the coronavirus a sham, because the coronavirus, as any logical human being would tell you, if I could just finish, because I let you go on for 5 minutes, I'm asking for 45 seconds. He called the coronavirus a sham. The coronavirus is not a sham. 140,000 people have died. Hospitals, hospitalizations, ICUs. People are in the front lines. They're dying. They're sick. And there is a huge uptick. Make no mistake about it, folks. The coronavirus is not a sham. And when I questioned him on that, he personally attacked me. And he called me a liberal. And the second he did that is when I went off. And the reason why I went off is because this man Juan is not special. And make no mistake about it, this man Juan is going to be able to feed his family regardless. And there are programs you can enter to help you with those types of things. But make no mistake about it, Juan is doing a disservice to you. And by the way, to show you his level of stupidity, and he's a very ignorant person, he was claiming that cutting your hair is just as important as going to a supermarket to get food. And then when I questioned him on that, and I said, are you really want to compare a necessity of people buying food at a supermarket to cutting your hair? He talked about, being beautiful. Then he pulled back on his statement. He said, well, I have to feed my family. I asked him about his personal financial situation because this man has owned this place for a long time. He wouldn't go there. He wouldn't talk about that.
That doesn't mean that he is in a great personal financial situation, Brian.
There's a lot of people.
Just because you own a business doesn't mean you're making a lot of money. It may be a passion project.
There's a lot of people.
His margins may be very small.
There's a lot of people that are in financial trouble right now because of this virus. But that is not an excuse.
But they're getting help from the government. A lot of them are getting help from the government, Brian.
He isn't. That is not an excuse for putting people in harm's way and defying orders by the governor. It is just simply not an excuse. Period. So I think we saw the intelligence or lack thereof with this barbershop owner. He did not do an interview on Fox News, okay, Because if you do an interview on Fox News, they'll pamper the man. And that's what they did on Fox News. I challenged him on some of his ridiculous opinions, and he decided to attack me and call me a liberal in return. We'll take some phone calls on this at 702-257-5396. By the way, he used the term unconstitutional and your rights, but it's not just about your rights. It's the rights of everybody. Then he did the right-wing talking point, which is compare the coronavirus to 8,000 people dying in this country every day and drunk driving. Last I checked, you get into a car drunk, it's illegal. You're not allowed to do it.